Hello and welcome back to the Feminine Purpose Masterclass. My name is Megan Rupert. I am so excited about today's presentation. So before we get started and before I introduce our guest, let's just go ahead and open the space. So go ahead, close your eyes, and just take a nice deep inhale through your nose, down into your belly, holding it there for a moment and allowing yourself to just come so present into this moment. And then exhaling and letting go anything that came before this session, anything that will come after, and just allowing yourself to come so present into this moment. I'm going to go ahead and light our candle. Starting to get a little hard to light. All right, and if you haven't already, go ahead and just blink your eyes open, coming into this space. I am so excited for today's discussion, especially as a new mom, but we'll be talking about that. So today with us, we have Aditi Loveridge. She's a life coach and a mother. So after Aditi's initial postpartum period had ended with her daughter, she found herself contemplating everything. Her career, her deep-rooted beliefs, how to find balance, why she made certain choices, what values she wanted to pass on to her daughter, and who she really was now that she was a mother. And I totally understand all of those questions now. Becoming a mother opens her up in more ways than she could have ever prepared for. Motherhood is a sacred journey that delves into the deepest parts of our souls. It cracks open the darkest places of yourself, allowing opportunities to connect to internal wisdom. So Aditi's masterclass will help you to recognize and honor this inner knowing or divine mother so that you can have a more mindful journey into motherhood. And even if you are not a mother, if you have no intention in becoming a mother, this is all applicable. So I'll open this floor to you. Welcome, Aditi. It's so wonderful to have you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Megan. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So for those who are like, I'm not a mom, I don't see it in my future, if you could just, let them know why this is important for them to hear.
Yeah. So specifically, I'm talking about motherhood because I work with moms and I myself am a mom. But this, what I'm talking about is basically can relate to anybody who in times of change or uncertainty continuously seeks external answers and instead of going internally. And if you're constantly going out of yourself, you're disconnecting from your inner wisdom. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a mother. It's just anybody who ever goes externally instead of going internally for answers.
So important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think that this is just, when we originally spoke a few weeks ago, I was, 2 or 3 weeks into motherhood at this point.
Yeah.
We were talking about how, I was like, even though I have a mom and I've got friends that have babies and stuff, but I kept catching myself going to Google and looking for answers. And as a result of that, I was finding myself kind of starting to spin a little bit because, we each are so individual. And when we try to go and, tap into, now granted, the internet's amazing. It's this global consciousness, but it takes you away from that connection to self.
Yeah.
And when we're doing this purpose work, it is so important that you're really tapping into yourself because that's your map is inside of you.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Totally agreed. Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'd love if you could actually explain to all of our listeners, what is this divine mother within?
Okay, so you touched a bit on that. So in this day and age that we live in, we have an abundance of knowledge available to us at our fingertips. We've got Google, we have message boards, we have apps, we have there's so many opinions from everybody, and there's research articles that we have access to prove everybody's opinions. Basically, if we need an answer for anything, we can get it at any time. And like you said, while this can be a good thing sometimes, what I've come to learn is that this external draw for reassurance is actually causing a disconnect from our inner knowing. And this internal knowing is what I call the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is a space within us all that holds the deepest level of wisdom about what is right for you. So not what's right for your friend or for your mom or even somebody who's been on a similar journey. It's what is right for you. It's what some people might call like the Divine Mother. Some people might relate it to like your gut intuition.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so why why do we look outside of ourselves? Why is that, the first place that we go to find our answers?
Yeah, it's interesting. So from my own experience in doing this work, I've realized that people are most likely to look outside of ourselves when we're faced with a new role, a time of uncertainty, a new challenge, when the stakes are high. Or also, we tend to look externally when there is a subconscious or a conscious societal pressure that there's only one way of doing something, or there's only one right way of doing something. Being a mother, for me, this is all of this. The stakes are incredibly high in everything and every parenting decision that I make. And then there's the presence of social media outlets like Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. So there's this overall societal pressure that mothers are facing to be perfect. We have to breastfeed. We have to be entrepreneurs, as you and I know ourselves. We have to throw our kids Pinterest-worthy birthday parties. We have to have our children potty trained by the time they're walking. They can't have soothers. There's all of these things. And in the mix of that, oh yeah, right, we have to fit back into our pre-pregnancy pants like the next day. So the pressure and the external advice and messages that we're receiving is endless. And this concept that there's only one right way is actually disconnecting mothers from our internal knowing. And in an attempt to seek reassurance, like you just said in your early weeks, and I'm sure there's moments that continue, we go further outside of ourselves. And so whether it be Google or we might ask a friend, and while sometimes friends can be helpful, sometimes they're not. In my own personal journey, there's been countless moments. My daughter is going to be 4 this summer, so there's been a number of years so far that I thought that there was only kind of the one right way of doing something. So I specifically remember when I wanted to start bottle feeding my daughter, and I intuitively and instinctively knew that that was right for me and my family. And I felt comfortable with that decision, but I didn't just start bottle feeding. Instead, I went externally. I went on the internet and I asked people, I asked friends, I went on message boards, and what I ended up reading and what I ended up hearing were all very negative. So I would hear things about how, bottle feeding babies leads to disconnect between mom and baby, or all kinds of things, that there'd be health issues for the baby. So after reading all those things, I tailspinned into panic and anxiety, because the underlying message was the way that I was thinking I would feed my child was not the best way. And this external knowledge essentially sent me into a tailspin of anxiety again, and I felt guilty even for entertaining the thought. Even for it crossing my mind, I felt horrible. And the external messages, what they were doing was taking me down a path of reality that was not mine. And I walked away from that incident feeling guilty and overall like a really inadequate woman, and particularly mother. And ultimately, I was more disconnected from my inner knowing than ever before. I had a deep knowing that bottle feeding was right for me and for my family. So why didn't I just bottle feed? It seems very simple. Because I was seeking reassurance, but I sought it in the wrong places. What I needed to do is go internal to where my divine mother resides. That internal knowing. Had I done that instead, I would have saved a lot of tears, anxiety, frustration, and ultimately I would have made a choice that was right for me, and I would not have wavered in that decision, and I would have stood confidently in that decision.
Right. Yeah. So it's so important, and I love the story that you shared, because it's such a perfect parallel for this this purpose work. We need to know how to trust ourselves. We need to know in those moments that we get these hits that this is the right next step for me, right? And
exactly.
And when I first started, in the online entrepreneurial game, whatever you want to call it, I was always looking outside of myself for the answers. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is, this is the strategy I need to follow. This is how I need to do it. This is how I need to craft my message to, to align. And I am going to hide this part of myself. Like back then when I had dreadlocks and, I was like, I'm going to hide the truth of who I am. I'm going to hide that, I use yoga and, and hooping to help myself find my right pathway. I'm going to hide all that because this is what people want to see from me. Right. And then we create this anxiety and this fear, like you were saying, these tears. And I was in the same place. I remember actually waking up on the floor of my office, like in tears, full of anxiety because I hadn't been listening to myself.
Yes. And so much self-doubt comes from that, right? Because you internally know this is who you are, and this is what you're wanting to present to the world, but you're censoring yourself so that you're fitting in with a larger idea of what should be, even though internally you know that that's not right, and then you're operating really out of alignment, which really creates a lot of emotions.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to really learn how to trust yourself. So with that said, how can our viewers and how did you learn how to stop drifting away from that center? Like how to really bring yourself to a place of knowing how to trust yourself?
Yeah. So I think the important thing is how to recognize when you're drifting. That's like the first step, bringing awareness to how to recognize when you're drifting. And this will happen. So over the years, I've gotten so many opportunities again to learn and understand when I'm drifting from my center. And it continues to happen. Nobody's perfect, but it's about bringing awareness to when it's happening. So, and even in my coaching business, I can always recognize when one of my clients is drifting or has drifted from their own center. The biggest clue is that you're operating outside of your center. So you're disconnected from your divine mother, and you're experiencing anxious thoughts. You're having difficult making decisions. Anxiety is usually caused by perceived fear of something in the future that likely will never happen. When we're feeling anxious, it's because we're operating solely from our mind. And when we're operating 100% from our mind, we are 100% disconnected from our divine mother. We are ungrounded. If we're living...
Can you repeat that? Because I want people to really hear that piece about
So when we are operating 100% from our head, from our mind, we are 100% disconnected from our center or our divine mother.
So important for people to hear that.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I
get it, because that's why I wanted to do this talk, because I truly feel it, that this is what's happening to all of us. And we're disconnected and we're ungrounded, because when we are living 100% in our thoughts and we keep thinking our way through problems, like we are 100% ungrounded. Living we're not at all in our body, in our heart centers, in our place of internal knowing. And so this leads to self-judgment, guilt, anxiety, comparison, self-criticism, doubt. This is how you know 100% that you're drifting from your center. This is how you know it. You're not at peace. There's an inner conflict. Like I said, there's like you're not in alignment. You don't feel like you're in alignment. You're operating from your mind, which is the furthest point from your divine knowing. So I'm sure you have many examples as well. I know for me, so I'll just flesh it out a little bit more. It's in this murky kind of anxious state of mind that we are drawn to external reassurance instead of internally. Most people in this day and age try to regain groundedness. So when we're ungrounded, living in our head, we try to regain groundedness and return to their center by Googling or connecting to some other external resource. Mm-hmm. However, if you're seeking externally, that is only further influencing you to operate from your mind. So it's a little bit of a cycle. So this is getting you further and further away from your internal wisdom. We then make decisions disconnected from our internal wisdom, and more than likely you suffer because those decisions were not made from the right space. Like we were talking about in the beginning, how you said with your when you first started getting into this job, you were doing it and you were not doing it from the right place. You were not in alignment, and you were ultimately suffering,
Right.
because of those decisions. Again, my example is going to be mother related. But I remember working with a new mom who was considering co-sleeping with her child. And she had told me like that she'd gone back and forth and back and forth. And she said, you know what? I feel that co-sleeping is right for me. She told me that, very confident, certain. And then she kept going back and forth. And so when we would have our coaching calls, I would say, okay, so how's it going? Well, I'm not co-sleeping with my child. And I'm like, but you've told me, like, with certain, like, there was a power in her voice that said that this was what I am going to do. What she did was look for reassurance from her mother and from Google or friends, and her mother and other people were sending her messages that, well, when I co-slept, it I created a very dependent child, or when I co-slept, it became very detrimental to my relationship with my partner. So out of self-doubt, again, this is how we know you're out of your center. Out of self-doubt, guilt, fear, my client decided to move her baby into his or her own room. She was so caught up in what other people were saying and telling her what would happen, that she silenced her own deep wisdom. So for months, again, she was anxious. She would tell me she had knots in her stomach every night, that when it came to bedtime, and her body was always tense. Every time she danced with the idea of co-sleeping again, because it would keep coming up, because internally her divine mother was trying to tell her, this isn't what is right for you. So it kept popping up. So every time she danced with that idea again, her mother's words would take over, and she would continue to have her child sleep in another room where both her and her baby were getting no sleep. So where was this client operating from? 100% again in her head. She was thinking about it. She was allowing other people's stories and words to take her down a path of reality that was not her own. Had this client made this decision about co-sleeping from her internal place of wisdom, she would have connected to her divine mother, her own reality, and she would have saved herself and her family a lot of undue stress and sleep. She would have got a lot more sleep. And ultimately, she would have made the choice that was right for her and her family. Right. And when others offered advice to her, she would not have wavered in her decision, because she would have felt it was undeniably the right one. She would have felt a strength, a groundedness in the foundation of who she was as a mother or a woman.
Yeah. I so feel that story, and it's on so many levels. And it's so funny, because actually before I had the baby, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm co-sleeping. Like, I had a bassinet. And then the baby came, it was like, oh, you're sleeping right next to me. And, he sleeps pretty much through the night, wakes the nurse, but that's it. But like, it comes back to this place, like, where, you were talking about how, like, we go in this cycle, right? When we're looking for outside reassurance. And it's like, that's what I call the spin. And
yes.
I see when my clients end up in that space. I just was talking to a client yesterday who she had decided to end a relationship from her heart. She knew that was what she needed to do, was to end the relationship. And then what happened was she stopped tuning in.
Yes.
And everything, things happened, things got hard. And when we talked, she was in that spin. And I was like, okay, you gotta come back into this space, and that is going to show you your next best step. So with that said, Aditi, I'd love if you could share with us, how do we get back into that space? Like, what are some ways that people can, when they catch themselves in that moment, or even if they're like, they know there's a big decision that's looming for them right now, and they want to learn how to go deeper.
Make it from from the internal knowing, instead of listening to all of the clutter, the abundance of messages that are around us. Well, my approach is is a mindfulness-based approach. Not just in my work. This is how I live in my life. And that's when I know this is not work for me, because it's in alignment with everything, just aligns. I was raised to be mindful of myself, of my presence, and of my decisions. And so The quickest, gonna give you 3 tips because they're super quick, super easy, cheap. They're all free, which is perfect. So the best way is to connect with our breath. So you did that a little bit at the beginning of this call. And this simple practice is, in my opinion, the quickest way to become present, to slow down your thinking mind, get grounded into your divine mother, your wisdom, get grounded into the foundation of who you actually are. So what you do is you bring attention. Bring attention to your breath, wherever you feel it, like most in your body. So if I could ask you right now, if you were to just focus, you don't want to manipulate the breath. You just want to focus on it. So for you, where are you feeling the breath most predominantly? Is it your nose?
Nose, yeah.
Nose? Okay, so some people feel it in their nose. Some people feel it in their chest or their abdomen. So wherever you feel it most dominantly in your body is where you want to focus your attention. So if it's your nostrils, just keep focusing on the breath coming in and out, how it feels. Sometimes it feels warm. Sometimes it feels cool. And as you're doing this, because we are human, this is what makes us human, thoughts are going to come in. With self-compassion, gently just remind yourself to bring your attention and your focus back on to your breath. And again, if noises are distracting, hear the noise, be aware that the noise is there, and gently remind yourself to come back to where you feel your breath. This divine life force that is always with you. Eventually, after you do that, particularly in moments of heightened anxiety or where you're, like you said, spinning, eventually you will start slowing down. That spin will start slowing down. You'll start to regain some clarity and focus. And so you can do this for as long or as short as you need. For our call today, I did this. And it was just enough what I needed to be able to bring my presence into the call.
Oh, I love that. It's actually been a while since I tuned in that way. That's powerful.
Yes, I love it because it is, you don't need to be a meditation expert or a mindfulness expert. It is simple, and our breath is always with us. Wherever we are, our breath is there and we can always rely on it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, I do too. So the next thing, because again, people are different, so not every strategy is going to work for everybody. Sometimes some people like a little bit more of a focused kind of strategy. So my next strategy would be the body scan. So again, you're bringing your awareness without naming or judging to each body part, beginning at your feet. Do you want me to walk you through how it would be done?
Sure.
Okay, so you can be sitting, you can be laying down, you can be standing, it doesn't matter, and you can have your eyes closed or you can just lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable for you, and depending on where you are at the time you're doing this, whatever works. So what you're going to do is just listen to my voice, and if you're doing this for yourself, you're just going to start at your feet. So just bring your awareness to your feet. Just become aware of them. If there's sensations, just notice the sensations. If there's pain, just notice the pain. You're not judging it. You're not trying to change it. You're just noticing. And then you move up to your ankles. Up to your knees. Bring awareness to your thighs. Your buttocks. Your lower back. your abdomen, your chest, your upper back, shoulders, your neck, the space between your eyebrows, and the top of your head. And how do you feel after that?
Really present. Yeah, really, really present.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Why
here.
do you think that is?
What's that?
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that activity makes you feel present?
Well, I would definitely say, you know, it's when we stop and we slow down, right? Like we're always everywhere else, right? Our heads here, you know, we're thinking about what happened before, what's going to come after, like, and when we just slow down.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
And just again, in going internally
Right.
instead of our phones or TV or apps or even friends or anything, just going to that place. I have one more strategy because again, everybody's different. So in moments where you cannot become grounded in your breath or body, because sometimes there's, you know, it's harder depending on what your circumstances and what you're facing in that moment. I have found that asking yourself, is it true, when thoughts are arising that push you into worry or any negative self-talk cycle, take a moment and ask yourself if those thoughts are true. So an example, I have a few examples, but do you have an example that where you might have to pause and say, is that true?
Oh, okay, perfect. Since we're talking about mothers. So I have, you know, my sister-in-law is watching the baby right now, and I needed to pump to make sure that I had a bottle for him. And I wasn't able to get much out. So I'm like, oh my God, is my milk supply running out?
Yes. Okay. Perfect. And so what did that thought do for you though? Like, did it kind of spinning
Well,
you?
yeah, it did. And it was so funny because then I was like, oh gosh, maybe I should post in my mom's group and see if that could be happening.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I went. Like, right.
Yes. Yes. So first of all, yeah, that's a perfect example. So I would encourage you after this call to do the breath work, do body scan, and then if it's still popping up, ask yourself, is it true? So I will ask you, Megan, is that true?
No, it's totally not true.
Okay. So, and that's the thing. More often than not, we will find that the thoughts that we are telling ourselves are not true. And if for some reason a thought is coming up and you're like, well, there could be some truth to that, then you have to ask yourself, what action can you take instead of ruminating in the negative thoughts? So maybe it is, well, maybe I need more information. So let me go to a trusted person for more information. But if you can wholeheartedly say, nope, that's not true, then move on because it's not true.
Right. Yeah.
And having that like that is super powerful. I use it all the time for myself. I had an incident where my daughter, who's 3.5, she got invited to her first birthday party, and it was they said it could be unparented. Parents didn't have to come, and I knew instinctively, like, I'm not okay with that. I don't know these people very well, so I'm going to go to the party. But then I saw answers outside of myself, and the feedback I was getting was, the messaging I was getting well, you're being too overprotective, and your child will not gain the proper socialization that she needs.
Right.
Send her to this party alone at 3.5. And so I did this work, I did the breath work, did the body scan, and I was still up here. So because I'm up here, then I asked myself, is that true? Is my daughter not going to be socialized because I attend this party with her? Or am I actually honoring what I know to be true of my daughter and her personality? And I'm like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And automatically I was able to just let it go.
Right.
And again, staying grounded and confident in in my decision, because that decision was made from my divine mother, my eternal knowing.
Absolutely. And I love that too, because it's like, even though you teach this practice, and, you know, for everybody who's watching right now, and I mean, one of the number one things that I teach my clients is how to trust themselves, right? And yet, you know, is my milk running out? You know, like with this 7-week-old baby who's nursing all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you shared that story, because it's like, even though this is exactly what you teach, you use this stuff. Like, this is your lifeblood, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, one of our other speakers, her thing is my message is my message. It's like our modalities are what we use for ourselves is what we put out into the world.
Exactly. Like, I would never be telling my clients or mothers who I walk with in this journey to do things if I wasn't doing it myself. I think it's way more powerful because I know the power in it, and I also know the challenges in it. So when a mom is saying, like, I did it and I was still spinning, I get that. So I can offer more support and more real life. It's not just fluffy, because it's real.
Right. And because it's true for you.
Yeah.
Like, it is your truth, right?
It is my truth. Yeah. I speak my truth 100%. And I encourage, that's a big part of my work, is encouraging women and mothers in particular, again, to speak their truth.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. So is there anything else that you feel like is really important for all of our listeners to know in order to, like, stay connecting? And I say connecting, right, because we get disconnected, so we always want to keep reconnecting. So anything that you want to add to just really sum this up?
So what I want mothers or women who are listening to this, because again, I think this applies to everybody, whether you're a mother or not, but what I want you to understand is that connecting to your divine mother or your internal knowing is a process. It's not a one-time connection, and then you're going to move through the rest of your life in connection. As I've just, I've been doing this for years, I've grown up with this mindfulness-based strategies, and I go in and out of connection all of the time, because life ebbs and flows, and so do we. So we have to be very compassionate, just as we would with our children, with our friends. We have to lend that same compassion for ourselves, that there's going to be moments where you're not going to be connected. The point is that the more you start connecting, the more you'll realize when you are disconnected. And so you're more quicker to then get back into connection, because you'll have the strategies, you'll have what works for you. And then you can look back at the circumstance and look back, oh yeah, I was totally disconnected. That in itself is like a huge win, to realize that you're disconnected and then to start doing things to regain that connection. And connecting to our divine mother, to our internal knowing, is where knowing that is where we should be to make choices. And so if you make a choice and you're not there, you'll often, again, start seeing the awareness of, oh yeah, okay, that didn't feel right. Oh yes, because I was not connected. So just that awareness is a huge win, and you should be very proud of yourself if you're even in that space of awareness. And just becoming aware that being in disconnection is where self-doubt, guilt, and anxiety live, and where they're founded. And so if you're wanting the opposite of that, having that reminder, okay, I don't want to feel these things, so maybe I should feel connected. And then lastly, I think this is a big one, because in me saying connect to self, I'm not trying to say don't connect to your other friends, or because friends and community as women, as mothers, is having a community is powerful and so essential. But in connecting with our own center, we are then in turn more able to connect wholeheartedly to other people, to our children, to our partners, to other women, and to other mothers.
Yes.
We will come in connection. If we're wholeheartedly connected to ourselves, we can connect, like I can connect to Megan, you as a woman, wholeheartedly, non-judgmentally.
Yes.
Much better.
I love that. I think that, so so many, and such a part of this process of purpose, and something that I experienced as I was awakening to purpose, was like how important community was. And like you said, like when we are wholehearted, we're coming from that connected space, that we can really create those more profound, real connections. Because I think it's so important for women right now to be healing this sisterhood wound, right? Where we've been living judging other women, or being judged by other women, or putting other women down. And, you know, when we do this work on ourselves, we encourage those around us to also be doing that work, that, you know, we can come together and say, you know, this is my truth, this is who I am, and not be afraid of what other people think, not let that change what we're doing.
Exactly. And when I'm in connection, like truly in connection with myself, and I feel comfortable in my decisions, or what I'm speaking, my truth, when I'm comfortable with that, and I get a judgmental response back from somebody, I can automatically now, because I am connected to my center and to my divine mother, I can automatically see in them that they are disconnected, and that's where they're coming from.
Right. Yeah. And to just honor them for where they're at.
Exactly. To just know, okay, that's where they are.
Yep.
I've been there. I know where that place is. It makes sense. And so I'm able to be more compassionate, not with just them, but with myself. And it just makes the whole relationship, I think, better.
Absolutely. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful, and to see you, and to learn more about you. And yes.
So, okay, I know that you also have a free gift to offer to all of our listeners. So if you could go ahead and share on that, that would be great.
So it is about a 10-minute free guided meditation. It is a mindfulness-based meditation, and it will help you to connect with your divine mother within. Whether you're a mom or not, it is about getting to that space of connecting to your internal knowledge, your internal wisdom.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. And for all of you who want to tune into that, you can grab the link on the same page that you accessed today's interview. So thank you so much. So let's go ahead and we'll just close out this space. So just go ahead, close your eyes, take a nice deep inhale through your nose, sending that breath down into your belly. And just as that breath is integrating into your body, allow all of this deep knowledge and wisdom that we've shared here today to integrate into your body. Exhaling out. And just allowing yourself to really settle into any new bits of wisdom that you have integrated today, and take that forward, move that forward into the world and into your purpose. So to all of our listeners, thank you for being here. You can go ahead and open your eyes. We'll blow out the candle and end today's session. And thank you, everyone. Aditi, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to tuning in with all of you on our next training. A blessed day. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.